The closer and closer we get to May, the more it starts to feel like summer. Welcome into the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. I was hoping I'd see our guy Chris Bianchi yesterday just to ask him about the forecast for spring state championships, Dougie. That's always my number one concern. Welcome into the show. I'm the editor-in-chief of Colorado Prep's Dan Mormon. That's the editor-in-chief of Mile High Sports Magazine, Doug Ottewell. Dougie, how was the weekend tweeting you? We hung out a little bit yesterday. Wish it was for a better occasion, but a lot of laughs were shared and some good memories.
Yep, it was very cool. Celebration of life for my dad, who passed away in February, and as you got to see firsthand, there was no shortage of folks involved in high school sports that were there to celebrate with us. So that was really cool. People coming out of the woodwork for sure, just to say hi and share some laughs and stories. So it was a great time.
And on a personal note, some old Mile High Sports alums, it was great to see Dan Fellman and Casey Light. Well, I got to shout out those guys. I didn't realize what a big shot Dan Fellman is these days, and we just don't even know about it, doing wonderful things in terms of live streaming for sports. I mentioned you're the editor-in-chief of Mile High Sports Magazine. Plenty of issues around the event yesterday. A big reason for that, it was the high school rankings issue, an issue that, primarily exists for a lot of the reasons because of your dad. A lot of good stuff in it. We're going to get into more. We talked about your dad last week. We're going to get into some more meat of the content of the magazine towards the end of the show. But as we start every show, we talk about what's on our upswing. And Doug, I was trying to think if I should just even create a new category for this for me, as maybe the best thing I saw all weekend. But I walked into Thornton High School on Saturday. I'm hitting the club basketball scene lately, more of cheering on one specific kid as opposed to the entirety of club basketball. But you see the unmistakable figure of the 4A Player of the Year, Caleb Fay, on one of the courts.
He's hard to miss.
He's very hard to miss, especially when he's on a court full of kids, and it doesn't take you long to figure out that he's coaching. And so I waited in between games, walked over, and started chatting with him, and he's spending his weekends coaching third grade basketball. He says it's a trip being on the other side of it. Just watching those kids run up and down the court, trying the best they can to grab a hold of this game and play the game that he loves so dearly. This is a guy who's going to play basketball at the Air Force Academy. His personal freedom days are greatly numbered at this point. He doesn't have to spend his Saturdays at Thornton High School coaching youth basketball, but it was a great sight to see. I hope, God, I wish we can normalize that kind of behavior from our top line high school athletes, because that was just such a great thing to see. I was able to go over, say hi to him, and great thing for me to see this weekend. So Doug, what about you? Or go ahead.
Well, I would add to that before I tell you mine, regardless of where you weigh in, and if you're someone who has a public-private school debate or whatever, I will say that I've met a ton of athletes over the years that are products of Kent Denver that are doing similar things. I think, just as a general rule of thumb, the athletic program, the coaches at Kent, they really do produce some great kids, and obviously Caleb is one of those kids, and like you said, he doesn't have very many free hours left, much less days. And then when you get to Air Force, I imagine that shrinks down to about 10 minutes a week.
Right.
So the fact that he's spending his Saturdays coaching kids, which is not easy, by the way. I've coached third graders in basketball, and it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, you got to be in it. So props to Caleb. That's a cool story. I know you shared that photo with me over the weekend. So good on him. My upswing is going to head out to the track in honor of our guy Jermaine, who's not here today, but I know he's been keeping tabs on stuff on the track. But I keep up with Bobby Reyes, your main track writer for ColoradoPreps.com. Bobby is he's one of the best. He's the most comprehensive track reporter that I know. If I want to keep up with what's going on the track and field scene, Bobby's my guy. But so I was kind of reading what he had put up this weekend, and his big highlight. I can't take real credit for this. His highlight, he was out at the Pomona Invitational, and he kind of noted Fossil Ridge senior sprinter Addison Smith. Not only did she sweep the sprints in that particular meet, which Bobby said were loaded. I take his word for it. He knows when the field is hot. But she swept the sprints in that field. She torched the state leading meet record, school record, and personal best of 23.86 in the 200. So she had herself a day. Addison now owns the #1 time in the 100 and 200. And Bobby was out there, saw it all. I take his word for it, man. If you need to know about track, you keep up with Bobby.
And what I like about Bobby is going to keep us just going with content, because we're going to touch a little bit more on that meet a little later. But I mean, you mentioned Addison and just the way that she's able to perform. I wonder if she ever works on that indoor track at Upswing, Dougie.
Probably.
You know, when every lane of that Upswing indoor track is built for young athletes to push their limits and chase their goals. The way that Addison is chasing her goals, you'd got to think she's spending time, even if it's not at Upswing, just spending the additional time at a place like Upswing. But Upswing itself is located at 7460 South University Boulevard in Centennial. Of course, our guy Jermaine runs the show. He's out today, always bouncing around doing other things. But once those kids are done training on that indoor track, for those kids that are pushing their limits, Upswing offers a safe and guided space to restore strength and energy. I preach about it all the time. Hot tubs, saunas, Normatec compression boots, which I think the world of, because they're part of Upswing. I have no problem promoting those. I use them just about every day. And I'll tell you what, first and foremost, those Normatec boots they're not cheap. Everything you see at Upswing, when you look at it, doesn't seem like it's going to be cheap. But Upswing removes cost barriers so young athletes can access world-class training and recovery. For those who are potentially eligible to get an Upswing scholarship as we go into spring state championships, I cannot stress enough that would be the place to go to try and take that next step and capture a state championship in any of the spring sports. You can learn more about them at upswingfoundation.org, or you can, again, check them out and visit them at 7460 South University Boulevard in Denver. I mean, Doug, speaking of spring sports or spring state championships, we're going to bring in a guy here in a second who's won a couple of them. But longevity in high school coaching is something that always is starting to feel a little more rare these days. And it's always fun to celebrate accomplishments, especially when they're tied to longevity and people who aren't in it because my kid's at the high school for 4 years, so I'm going to go coach that team. With that, we bring in Denver Christian baseball coach, former University of Northern Colorado baseball coach, Terry Hensley, who won his 300th game with the program on Thursday as the Thunder beat Jefferson Academy 11-0. Coach, congratulations first and foremost, but as we get into this, I just want to know, like, why do you stick with the high school game? What do you love about coaching high school baseball?
Well, first of all, thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. And if I can start with Doug. Doug, I started when your father was part of my life in Colorado.
Hey, Coach, real quick, if you have your computer open, can you close it? We're getting an echo. We're getting a crazy echo.
Oh, yep.
Danny Bailey coming in live. Is that Danny Bailey's first on-camera appearance?
Is that better?
Yep, we got you.
We got you.
Okay, how about
Live
that?
programming is always fun, Coach. We got you.
All right. Hey, first of all, Doug, your father was very instrumental in when I got started, and I'm sorry I wasn't at the celebration of life, but I have a lot to owe for your father and what he helped me with when I started.
Well, thanks for that. I know he was a baseball guy, and he loved baseball from the time he was little to you know, it was funny. We were sitting in hospice, and I said, "What do you know, what's going on? You got any wishes?" He said, "Man, I really wish I could make it to opening day." Yeah. He didn't, but he'd be happy with what the Rockies are doing right now, and I know he'd be pretty proud of you for your 300th win too. So thank you
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I was poking around doing some research, texting you a little bit beforehand, and I told you
I can't hear you now. Boy.
When
I'm not hearing you.
we're going to try and get Coach back in here in just a second. I was poking around trying to get some research done, Dougie, and when you look up Terry, most of the stuff you see is from his time at the University of Northern Colorado and coaching the Bears. And when he left, he made a point of saying he was retiring, not resigning. And that was back in 2002. He retired from UNC and wanted to pursue a career in secondary education administration. I'm not sure if coaching was a part of that plan. I'm hoping we can get him back in here in just a second to ask him that. But when you hear about someone making that kind of a jump to go from a Division I collegiate level, and I want to go in and work with high school kids, it's usually, the natural order of life might think that you want to go the other way. You build up through high school. It's what Gary Barnett did, going from Air Academy to Fort Lewis to CU. Right. But what is it about high school sports that can draw a coach like that back to the high school level from Division I athletics?
Well, I think my natural assumption, and I'm sure this isn't the true, story for everybody, but my assumption would be that if you're going from the college game to the high school game, you're getting back to the purity of the sport. You're not dealing with the recruiting. You're not dealing with, budgets and travel and, things that probably get to be pretty tedious over the course of a time as a coach of a college program, regardless of the sport. But you get into a high school program and you love the game. You love teaching. You love those coachable moments. And I think, obviously there's some benefit and probably a thrill to being at a Division I level in whatever sport you're in. But you go to high school, and I think that there's some other rewards. You're teaching kids through their most pliable time, and even it has nothing to do with the sport. I think, you think back to your own high school career or my high school career playing sports. I mean, those are some of the most influential people in my life, and it had nothing to do with, the game itself, just lessons you learn every day in practice and things like that. And, from what I know about Terry, he's that kind of guy that's going to, have a big imprint on a young person's life, whether that has to do specifically with baseball or maybe the ancillary lessons that come along with it.
Yeah. And I mean, and he took over at Denver Christian, I think in the fall of 2021. And I want to say that first year, I mean, I'm hoping we can ask him about this, but one, that's coming off such a crazy point in human life, forget about high school sports, but coming out of that COVID era, I was down at the 2A baseball championships in Pueblo in the spring of 21, when everything finished up. And, it almost seems like a good time for a reset, whether it's professionally, personally, however that ended up going. But he turned that program around. They were struggling a little bit in that 2019 season, and then, or in that 2020 to 2021 season, and then he ended up getting them to, I want to say it was like the final 8 of that 2A bracket, where they lost to Highland, and then the next year they made it to the state championship game against 2-time defending champion Lyman. Of course, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together that I was wearing a Lyman hat today until right when Terry came on, and it kind of clicked on me. And there he is.
There I am.
Got him.
Can you hear us, Coach?
I can hear you fine. How about you?
Yep, we're good now. So we were kind of running down a little bit of your resume, but the one thing that I wanted to ask you about is when you retired from UNC, you actively said you were going to pursue a career in secondary education administration. Was coaching a part of that plan initially when you set out to do that?
When I finally made that decision to hang him up, I thought I was finished. And my wife and I bought a bed and breakfast up in Evergreen, and instead of coaching, I was scrubbing toilets and making beds and meeting people from all over the world. And then I got a call from Brad Madden over at Ralston Valley, and he said, "Coach, I need a little help. So I renewed the love for the game and went and helped Brad for a couple years. And then, as we were trying to fix all this audio stuff, I heard you mention that I took over in 2021 here at Denver Christian, and that is not correct. I received another call from an ex-player of mine, Sam Jones, and he said, "Coach, I'm taking over a program that has been, in the basement for a while, and I need you to help me, renew the love for baseball here at Denver Christian." So I helped Sam as the water boy for a couple years. And then Sam did an amazing job here. We renewed the love of baseball here at Denver Christian, and that hat that you're wearing probably was the highlight of our 2023 and 2024 years, in that we were able to beat the Lyman Badgers in the state championship 2 years in a row. And I'm a little surprised that you're wearing that hat.
Well,
he has no couth, Coach. I mean,
Yeah.
You'd think this would come up in the show notes. Maybe a producer would catch it or something. But man,
Yeah,
Dan Mormon just has no boundaries.
I'm, and what they've done. I mean, I'm very proud of that program. What Coach Rockwell has done out there is sort of, awesome. But we're happy to say we got the best of them 2 years in a row.
Well, and Coach, you send a Denver Christian hat my way. I'll make sure I wear it when we have Rocky on the show. We'll go turnabout being fair play.
Right.
So, Coach, when you talk about coming back in 2021, kind of an odd time. I mean, school programs, all sports really were 1 year off of coming off this like COVID year and weird scheduling and things like that. What were some of the challenges of kind of resetting that baseball program and not just the program, but you personally? I mean, was it the perfect timing? What'd you learn from that? What were the benefits of that?
Well, it's kind of bittersweet, because at one time you think your career is over and you're not sure if you ever want to coach again because of all the things that helped you make that decision. And then you realize that you still have something to give. And, there are many, many young men and women out there who are just hoping that someone takes an interest in them. And I think the big thing I realized was, coming from the college level and moving back into the high school level, that there's still a lot of athletes that want to learn and are willing to listen. And what I was most proud of early on, 4 or 5 years ago, is that even though I have, quite 47 years in doing this, I was still able to connect with the modern day athlete. And I think as you get older in your coaching days, you wonder, can I coach a modern day athlete? Will they listen to me because I'm old? And right now there's enough that are still listening that I can keep doing it for a while.
What goes into that? Because nowadays I feel like you have kids who are understanding more and more some of the things that professional baseball players talk about. So, do you have kids that are talking to you about launch angles and ball speed off the bat that, you're struggling to get them corralled back into the fundamentals?
Oh, absolutely. I'm dealing with that right now at Denver Christian. Now that Sam Jones and we have kind of rebuilt the program, we're lucky enough to have, a handful of club players, and right away, the first thing you have to tell them is, hey, baseball is still a very simple game. And the simplicity of baseball includes a round object hitting another round object. And the thing that we struggle with here at the high school level is, when we hear about launch angles, launch angle deals with people who are, multi-million-dollar athletes, and they're strong and they're quick and they have great bat speed, and they're able to adjust to having a launch angle and hitting the barrel onto the ball. But what our high school kids struggle with sometimes is, if they're not 255 pounds and they're not 6'5", they can't hit the ball out of the ballpark at the high school level. And I always tell my guys, it's a lot easier to get a base hit or be a base runner if you hit the ball on the ground and make them make 3 or 4 plays than it is to hit a fly ball in the outfield because we're trying to hit the ball out of the park, with the launch angle like the big league guys are.
And coming into that, I mean, I always kind of came from that old school mentality of hit the top half of the baseball.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, and you mentioned that it's still a very simple game. Do we get lost too much into kind of the new age and trying to make sure that we're evolving, and what's the right balance there?
Well, there needs to be a balance because, I'll be the first one to tell you, I have had parents and players tell me that the game has passed me by. And, unfortunately, we have to deal with that. And that's part of our world. And I think as long as I continue to do this, I have to find that good balance. Where do I try to get this young man ready for the next level, but still keep the simplicity of the good old game of baseball. And there's no question, if I don't adjust my teaching styles, the game will pass me by. But I still believe it's a good old game. They haven't changed many rules. And the more people that can put the ball in play and make them play defense, the better chances we have.
Well, Coach, 300 wins would tell me that you've done just the right amount of adjusting. You've done just the right amount of focus on the fundamentals of the game, the same ones that Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth had to deal with. What was it about that number? I mean, 300 is kind of a special number in baseball in general, but did it creep up on you? Was it important to you? Did your kids know about it? Just talk a little bit about hitting that milestone and kind of what went into it or what didn't go into it.
I think the reason it caught me off guard is that I did retire from the game a couple times. And, I told a lot of people in the last couple of days that 300 is just the number. I knew absolutely nothing about it. When the minute the game was over, people started holding up the 300 sign, and it was all news to me. I want to thank the Denver Christian community for recognizing that. And again, 300 is just a number. I hope I live until I obtain 500 or 700. Wins are important because I always play to win the game, along with developing relationships with my players. But I knew nothing about it.
You talk about trying to get to 500 or 700, but there's still plenty of 2026 season left for you guys. What's next? I mean, that pesky Forge Christian team seems to be a little bit of a thorn in your guys' side right now, but are you and your team embracing that challenge and kind of seeing that as a, if we want to do something special, we've got to go get them?
Well, funny that you mentioned that. I heard earlier you were talking about the rankings, and I can put a plug in for it. Right now, of our 5 losses, we're 7-5, and we lost. We had Forge. We were ahead 8-7 in the bottom of the 7th inning, and they scratched 2 runs to beat us 9-8. But we now have the only 3 losses that we have in Colorado are to Forge, the number 1 team in 2A. And then we lost to Monte Vista, who is currently ranked number 2. And then we lost to Prospect Ridge, who was, before last week, they were the 3rd-ranked 3A school. So we play in a very difficult, 3A Metro League with Colorado Academy, Forge Christian, Peak to Peak, Prospect Ridge. And so we have to be on our best game every time we step on the field. So right now, when our objective and our goal is in the rest of the season is to get ready for that 2A state championship. This will be the last year that Denver Christian competes in the 2A classification, and we want to be ready come the regional playoffs and then hopefully into the state tournament.
And we're going to be watching every step of the way, Coach. Can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes to chat with us. Congratulations on your mark. I know you say it's just a number, but it was definitely a number that your community felt was worth celebrating, and that's always good to see.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your show, and thank you for what you do for Colorado Preps.
You bet.
All right.
Thank you.
That's Coach. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
That's Denver Christian coach Terry Hensley. Of course, we always have some fun with live experiences. Dougie, if we were pre-taping this, maybe we could have been a little bit smoother, but we're all good.
That's exciting.
That's why it's exciting. So we're going to dive into some more exciting stuff up next after the break. New issue of Mile High Sports Magazine is out. And when I sent you this feature, we assigned our guy James Nokes a couple of features. And when I sent one your way, I remember you basically telling me, like, this is one that as the editor, you'd be proud to show people. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I can't wait to get into it with James on the other side of this break. This is the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing.
Yo, these KDs are fire. KD, you work here?
Whatever, kid. Take notes.
Every shoe for every athlete, only at Dick's. When I go to court, these aren't my clients, these are my friends. These are people that I believe in. And they have one shot, just one shot for justice. If they've come to me and we've gotten to trial, their life has been turned upside down in some awful way. I'm all they have. So if I haven't put the time in, if I haven't trained, if I haven't humbly looked in the mirror and thought about ways I can be better, and I don't present my best self in court, then I failed them. And that's what motivates me as a trial lawyer, because when this is over, that client goes home. And if I haven't done my best for him, I haven't been his champion, then I've failed.
There are those who say the modern world has made us lose touch with places like this. We say, that depends on what you're driving.
Welcome back into the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. Dan Mormon, Doug Ottewell, and there's our guy James Nokes. When you told me you were going to be remote, I half expected you to be on the Kings Deer driving range, getting some swings in. But it looks like you're working nice and safely from home. And I think he's having some audio issues. I don't know if James can hear us right now.
I expected him to be at a fine vineyard.
A fine vineyard. I was.
Now I'm hearing you. I'm not. There we go.
Yeah, I was hoping for the guy. I was hoping the Kings Deer driving range, that you were trying to get your game in shape as we're going to be hitting. I know at some point you and I will be getting out and chasing those white balls around. But James, how are you?
Dan, I can't hear you.
So it's my audio that's screwing everyone up.
Sorry.
It's your audio and your hat.
My audio and my hat.
No, I hear you, Doug.
See?
Doug, you're going to have to take over the show.
Right hat, and I got the right audio.
That's
Good morning, everybody. How we doing?
Outstanding. How was your weekend, James?
My weekend was terrific. Thank you. This weather's been it's been very good to us. Been very good to us.
can you get me? You got me now, James?
I got nothing from Dan, but we're here to talk about Brooklyn.
We are here to talk about Brooklyn. Dougie, you know enough about the feature. I'm going to let you just run the interview while we troubleshoot everything. So,
sure. Well, I think, Dan, you kicked it off by saying, hey, this is a story. And, I've been the editor of the magazine for 23 plus years now. And, we're proud of a lot of things that we do. But I generally think there are times in every publishing calendar that kind of stick out as something you're like, hey, this is a story I'm going to remember. This is a story that I'm proud to run. Whether I wrote it or not, it's just the story that you wrote on Brooklyn Gilhooly is one of those stories where, as an editor, you know, it came back across my desk and I read it and I thought, now this is why we do this. So kind of with that as a backdrop, James, I'm going to let you kind of set the stage. Tell the 10,000 foot view, the Cliff Notes view of your story, and then talk a little bit about the setup, the behind the scenes, what went into it, because I think, you know, full 360. This is one of our best efforts.
Oh, well, that's too kind of you. Thanks for the opportunity. To kind of set the stage, I think Brooklyn is a supernova of potential. The experience I had with her is similar to the one you had reading it. When I left Regis after interviewing her dad, after meeting her friends and having lunch, I just felt like a better person. Like, it was a remarkable scene what the global program has done for people with some intellectual disabilities. And the experience they're having, it's literally, I was jealous. I wanted to go back to college and be part of it. Like, the interactions they had in the lunchroom, the way that athletes walked by and high-fived them or chatted with them. And some of the kids from the Global Unified Program went and sat with baseball players for lunch or soccer players for lunch and just hung out with them. So there's this massive influx of total inclusion in what they're doing. You know, you've heard the expression, like, your heart is full. You leave there and your heart is full. It's spectacular what they're doing. Her dad is, you know, the director of athletics there. You couldn't find a better champion for the cause either with Tommy. I understand where Brooklyn gets her high spirits from, her positive attitude. Much of it comes from him. And part of that story that I was fortunate enough to write, I was fortunate enough to meet the Gilhooly family. There's a scene I tried to paint, if you will, of her being a young kid at ski lessons and the ski instructor saying, just go over there and do whatever, and kind of ignoring her and thinking he's just going to get his couple $100 as her brothers get better at skiing. And when her dad stops back to check in and she's not skiing, he's like, what do you mean she's not skiing? Get her out there. I expect her to do just what her brothers do. And intellectual disabilities aside, I feel as if it's a family that never treated her any different. You can do the same things your brothers can do. You can do the same things that we did. You can have those same experiences. And now she's having them in college, which is so awesome. So the background, Doug, you asked, you know, for a little bit of the technical stuff too. I spent an afternoon at Regis in their lunchroom, which is gorgeous. I had lunch, and I think back to, I went to a junior college, a 4-year university, and then went to graduate school. And sitting in the quad with my friends, or, you know, going to the library to study, going out for lunch. This was the same experience that all these kids were having, and that is phenomenal to me. There was one, you know, Doug, you've written these stories. Dan, you've written these stories before. You leave so much on the cutting room floor. Like, you know, like, hey, you got 2,000 words, maybe 2,500 words. I could have gone 10,000 words. Like, there's so much that you leave behind. And one of those was one of the global students. We're all sitting there talking about sports. And he's like, hey, I get to be the scorekeeper. This kid, Sebastian, said, I get to be the scorekeeper for the baseball team. I'm like, oh, great. And he's like, yeah, but you know what you can't do in the press box? And I'm like, no, what can't you do? He's like, there's no clapping. There's no cheering. You just have to keep score. And he gives me this rundown of all of his lists of responsibilities there. It was the coolest, the sweetest, one of the most fun things ever. And I could just picture me sitting there in graduate school or undergraduate school with my boys, having a cheeseburger or a Italian sub, or, you know, a cup of coffee in the morning over breakfast, and somebody having the same discussion. Hey, I was the announcer for the baseball game, but they told me no cheering. And the fact that kids with some intellectual disabilities get to have this experience, it's so cool. It's so fun. a week or two after writing the story, we were at the Coliseum for the photo shoot, and Brooklyn walks in, and she met me once. And I come trotting out of press row, and I see her walking in with her mom, and she throws her hands up just like she did when she said goodbye at the end of the story. As I say, she tosses her hand up and throws a wave and says, "Bye, guys." She puts her hand up and says, "Hey, James," and I'm like, "You remember me? How awesome is that?" And then she got to do that photo shoot, and you know, I had to include some of that photo shoot in there because her and Brianna Crittenden, who was also featured in this month's magazine, to have the two of them side by side. Brooklyn is eh, not as tall, she's maybe up to her chest, and to put their arms around each other to jump right in like they were best friends. I mean, I think not only are they living their best life, but the magazine, Doug, as you mentioned, 23 years putting it out. I think you could be proud of what you found too, because those were two really spectacular daughters of Colorado that came together for just something that was absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely great point, and the fact that the interaction between them was really cool. You mentioned Tommy, and ironically, I learned as through the process of this story, Tommy and I played against each other in high school in soccer, and Tommy was one of the best soccer players that's ever come through the state. And I didn't connect those dots until we started doing the story. And you mentioned the skiing story and Tommy's insistence on, hey, you treat her like any other athlete. I want to reference another story that you conveyed through your article. I think a lot of people think unified sports is a great concept. It gets kids playing regardless of their ability levels. A lot of great interaction. It involves, not just unified athletes, but also varsity athletes kind of interacting. It's a great program. But one of the things that stood out in your story was that Brooklyn was actually a varsity letter winner, not in unified sports, at Denver East swimming. And I thought that spoke volumes of her competitiveness. It obviously speaks about Tommy and how he wants her to conduct herself and the coaches around him. Talk a little bit about that story, because that to me was remarkable. Going in, I thought, okay, this is a unified athlete that has done some cool things or whatever. I had no idea that she was that capable and at that level at Denver East.
I think the key there is, yes, Tommy had high expectations for her. And he was also fair to Dave Quintana. He's been doing it for 18 years there, and they met beforehand. And I think there was a really great partnership there because Dave put expectations out from the start. He said, here's the deal. She can do it. And I'm not saying this in a mean way, but essentially he said, she can do this totally fine, but I can't be a babysitter. Like, I have a team that I have to coach. If she's going to be a problem, then, obviously she can't. So of course, let's go try it out. She jumps in the pool. She participates. Mom and dad are sitting up on the second level of the aquatic center there, looking down, and Brooklyn's just a participant like anybody else. So Tommy had shared with me, he said, maybe I was worried she might get out of the pool and walk away. She's never done that, but you never know. And once she didn't do that, he never had to show up and practice again and watch her. Dave, I think, treated her just like everybody else, which is so important, is that he's like, look, if she's goofing around, you're going to swim with 50. Like, you're going to swim with just like the other kids. If you're splashing or messing around or talking when I'm talking, or, we're supposed to be getting through a drill, I'm going to punish you just like I did with the other kids. And she'd do that activity, which is just remarkable. Participating in JV meets, varsity meets, there's times where she would beat kids. She'd beat participants from other schools. She'd finish in front of them. And what more could you ask for there? This is a guy that set up the program. Davis set up a program with 11 swim league titles. So it's not like a fly by night. It's not like, well, we've got 3 kids, we'll finish out the 4th. The Angels are sitting there going, we're serious, man. We're not playing here. We're coming to, put some more pelts on the wall, if you will, when it comes to postseason, when it comes to league titles. And for her to be a part of it, yes, speaks to her family, speaks to what Dave has done there. And I think it speaks to her too, Brooklyn's expectations of herself that her family's instilled in her, the values, the hard work ethic, to see all those things happen. That's awesome. I mean, that's why I suppose that's why they do what they do, the Gilhooly family. And she just took to it. And she talked about swimming all the time. Her mom told me a story. They took swim lessons in the neighborhood. There was an instructor that had a pool, and this part kind of, didn't make the whole story either. But she started when she was 3 years old. There was a round pool that took up most of the backyard. They'd enter through a side gate, and the instructor said, "Bye, Nicole." And she's like, "Oh, you want me to stick around?" She says, "No, that's not how I do it. We're going to work together. We're going to be one-on-one, and we're going to have a great time." And mom comes back to pick her up, and she's diving for the pool rings, the little pool rings, and the pool sticks. And she said, "Look what she can do." So I think we have come so far with the Global Unified Program, but just in the way that students with intellectual disabilities become an inclusive part of communities, of school districts. This is a story that's a champion for the success of everybody involved, for sure.
We're gonna try this one more time. You got me, James?
Doug, you're gonna have to translate what Dan said again. I'm sorry, I can't hear Dan at all. Dan, I don't know what's going
tell
on.
you what he said. I don't think you're really going to want to hear that, but I think, I'll take a crack at guessing what Dan might have asked. But I think you kind of alluded to it with your last answer. After all said and done, and you wrote the story, you got to see how Brooklyn's family handled her situation, how coaches around her, both at East and Regis University, handled her, coached her, encouraged her, all those things. What was your biggest takeaway? Whether that's misconceptions of a unified program coming into it, or advice to other schools, parents, coaches when handling and dealing with unified athletes? Because my takeaway was, man, this is a really great thing, and this is a case that things are being done right. What were kind of the biggest takeaways and lessons that you learned from this?
I think it cements what you said, that things are being done correctly. I think in a previous career of mine as an athletic director, I would host the Shrine game, where we would go see the Shrine School, and those are kids with oftentimes severe intellectual disabilities. And I kind of remember thinking, this is terrific for them. Like, this is their Super Bowl, their NBA championship, their World Series. We'd play a basketball game against them. Some kids were in wheelchairs, like severely disabled, challenged. And to see this program and how far it's come, I still think that we're only scratching the surface. That's my professional opinion, is we're scratching the surface, because this is just at Regis. I think it is a program that can be extended. This can be at multiple universities. This could be, you and I both know, the more money you kind of throw at something, the better it could be. So Michelle C. Witten, the CEO of the Global Foundation, the founder of it, I think is designing this program. It's in the oven now and it's baking, but she's not done with the pie. She wants to take it out and have it be the greatest thing ever, to use an analogy there. She wants to see it spread to other schools. She's mentioned that Gonzaga has contacted her. Loyola Marymount has contacted her. But she's not ready to put it out yet until it's very measurable, and everything in there can be quantified as legitimate and working. And here's the program, go with it, almost like franchising it. And I think that is that next step. I'd love to see more federal dollars pour into it, because I think there are a lot of kids out there that can have this experience. I train as a personal trainer. There's a woman I train who has a child with Down syndrome, and she had no idea about this program. And so I said, man, this is something that should be really, the virtues of it should be extolled to a greater extent. And I'd love to see, college opportunities, collegiate opportunities, athletic opportunities, because there's kids out there that need this. And I think that's the next step, is that this isn't even the foundation. The pie is in the oven, it's cooking, they're going to take it out and they're going to see what it's like. And then they're going to build the foundation, because it's still in its infancy. The first seniors are graduating this year from the program. So the room for growth is exponential. I'd love to see federal dollars get behind it. I'd love to see more studies occur about what's successful. success looks like. I think the kids that graduate from the program, there was one story Michelle told me where they were going to get jobs post college, and they were doing these internships at a hotel. And it's like, look, we don't want the kids to just stand there and talk. We want them to actually do work. So what can they do? Probably not a good idea to put them on the big iron press thing that folds down, that's like 500 degrees, that could burn their arms off. That might not be a good idea. But what else can we do? So, like, to have a list of opportunities post certificate program, wow. I mean, we're really just, we don't even have a foundation in place. I think there's so much room for growth with this.
Yeah, great stuff, James. Again, if people haven't read the story, it's available in the new issue of Mile High Sports, which can be found, bars, newsstands, waiting rooms all over the city. Also on milehighsports.com and coloradopreps.com. This is a store we wanted as many places as we could get it. So make sure you're going to read James's work anywhere and everywhere. James, in retrospect, I'm not so sure that this conversation without Dan Mormon, wasn't more enjoyable. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time talking to Dan Mormon. He's a nice guy. I think this worked better because, he wasn't interjecting, wearing insulting hats to our guests. All the things that Dan can do to derail a show. This was pleasant. I really appreciate the opportunity, not just with you, but for Dan and having technical issues.
Well, I think we proved that we could pull it off on our own.
I think so,
yeah, we're okay at this.
That's right. All kidding aside, James, great having you on. Fantastic job on the story. I can't say it enough. This is one of those stories we're proud of. It's the reason that we do what we do. And I really do hope, especially after people got a chance to hear your background on the story, go check out the story, read it, pass it around, tell others. It's these kind of things that, like you said, this is the first step. This is the start of a foundation of some great things to go with the unified program. And the folks at Global are just doing an outstanding job. And I thank you for kind of relaying that message to our audience. And we'll see you here down the road. I know you and Dan are working on a lot of stuff with spring sports championships coming right around the corner. So I'm sure we'll be having you on here soon. We are going to take a quick break, pay some bills, visit our great advertisers. We'll come back and maybe if our audience is lucky, they can hear Dan Mormon, lucky or unlucky. I'm not really sure, but he will be back to round out the show. We'll be right back on this Colorado Preps.
A little more slack.
Whoever said work smarter, not harder, didn't realize you could do both.
This is Tim Anderson of Gordon Insurance, and we are proud to support all of our area athletes. With offices in Lyman, Callahan, Flagler, Sterling, and Kit Carson, we offer all types of insurance, including home, auto, commercial, farm, crop, life, bonds, and workman's compensation. We are independent and thus can offer you multiple choices of companies, not just one. Call or visit the office near you, and one of our agents can take care of you. See all of our contact information by going to www.gordonins.com or call me at 719-740-1361.
Golf season is here, and Denver Golf Passes make it easier than ever to play. Start your golf journey with Learn and Play 1.0. 5 clinics, 5 rounds, 5 buckets. Already playing? Take your game up a level with Learn and Play 2.0. Or grab the Friends and Family Pass. 20 par 3 rounds and 30 mini golf or range sessions. And for new players wanting reps, the Practice and Play Pass gives you 10 rounds and 15 range buckets. Find the pass that fits your game. Visit cityofdenvergolf.com.
Well, I guess since you guys got this, Dougie, I'm going to go ahead and take some of the weapons and maybe
just go hit the links.
Just maybe hit the range and try and get the game dialed in. Welcome back to the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. Thanks to James Nokes for joining us. Talk about his great piece in the latest issue of Mile High Sports Magazine. Danny Bailey can hear me. You can hear me. James just found the mute button. He found the mute button on on my end. So
I found it on purpose. I don't want to speculate.
I mean, I'm sure you're already texting him and asking him what the secret is. So we'll we'll just kind of go from there. We're gonna wrap it up here in just a minute, but little bit of a big deal next week, Dougie. We will not be on Monday. We'll be on, I believe it's Thursday instead. Is it Wednesday or Thursday? The 22nd would be Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday. That's right.
It's a Wednesday. So I got my days somewhat mixed up. We will be
is the number you need to know, though.
That's right. The 22nd. We will be at Wellshire Golf Course as a part of the 100th anniversary of the course. With a Wednesday broadcast instead of Monday. We'll be there live during the Thomas Jefferson Girls Golf Invitational. We have a DPS league tournament going on, and Wellshire wanted to have us out to do a show, so we figured why not do it when there's actual competition going on. Should be a fun day. It'll be fresh off. That morning is actually the spring legislative council meeting for JASA, so I'll be kind of like meandering my way to events next week. I'll start at legislative council early in the morning, and then we'll transition to broadcasting at Wellshire. I think we're going to try and start going around 1, 2 o'clock, maybe try and get through some of the stuff and maybe see if we can snag a player or two as they come off the course. We'll have plenty of other guests too. I know we'll have some staff from the course to talk about some of the great things going on there with them and of just City of Denver golf altogether. And then we might even have a CHASA assistant commissioner, maybe get a player or two from the tournament. So it's going to be a fun deal, Dougie. It's going to give me the golf itch for sure. I can tell you going out there, I'll be ready to go.
And what a cool way to celebrate Wellshire. The fact that they're hosting a high school tournament within the DPS, and they've got a milestone season here upon us. That's just pretty cool. That's full circle for what we're all about here at Colorado Preps.
And if we get the guests that I'm trying to line up, I want to ask them, can we start looking at things like the 100th anniversary of Wellshire and maybe coinciding it with a state tournament being there to kind of, have CHASA and milestone accomplishments in Denver coincide?
Complimentary, journalistic rounds for you and I. I think that's really the key for any golf opportunity.
Oh yeah. We've had our fair share. I know we're working on more of our fair share for the year, so we'll see how all that goes. Before we really wrap up the show, Dougie, we're going to get into our standouts and letter winners. We've got some good ones through the weekend. I couldn't even start the process of writing them down before you jumped in there and started going through them in the notes. But why don't you go ahead and fire away first?
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off with Avery Bostwick from Columbine Girls Soccer. A week ago, she netted the game winner against Golden, a big win in the Jeffco Conference. Columbine is undefeated, and Avery is the points leader for that Rebels team. She's headed to Ferris State next year to play. So definitely a standout there at Columbine. They're a team that's kind of on the rise, trying to make some noise here before state playoffs. So yeah, my shout out is Avery Bostwick from Columbine Girls Soccer.
And then I mentioned this earlier in the show. You were talking about Bobby Reyes' piece on the front page of ColoradoPreps.com from the Pomona Invitational. How about Owen Hayes from Roosevelt? Just obliterate. Well, he broke the state record in the 300-meter hurdles at the Pomona Invite. You can read more at ColoradoPreps.com. A collective gasp from the crowd, as Bobby wrote, when he crossed the finish line to hit his mark. Just a great run from Roosevelt to Owen Hayes, and you can't tell me with that kind of performance he's not eyeing gold here in just about a month at Jeffco Stadium. And then we're going to wrap it up with Chaparral's Lily Cohen. Did not win the Highlands Ranch Invite at the University of Denver Golf Club, but she did shoot a 2-under par 70, and that included a bucket on the 202-yard par 3 sixth. Hole-in-one for Lily Cohen. She is one of the top-ranked golfers in the state right now, but this is where we got to find Chaparral AD Rob Johnson and ask, what are the parameters? Does the school buy us lunch? Does Lily buy us lunch? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, you don't in high school golf. My assumption, and I'm sure this is more than an assumption, you don't buy the bar around. It's not part of high school sports. So yeah, what is it?
It's very frowned upon.
Club sandwiches, buffalo wings, Arnold Palmer's around. I mean, hey, either way, it's a hole in one. That's pretty impressive.
And I always enjoy being watching a golf tournament and being next to a coach when their player just fires one right at a pin at a par 3. Is it that ball will be midair, and I'll just ask, school card or your card? How does this work? Like, what are we doing here? Congratulations to Lily Cohen, of course, the mega bonus, as I always like to refer to it, two under par at the University of Denver Golf Club. Doug, we've got postseason professional sports coming up. The Denver Nuggets, I don't want to say shockingly. I think David Adelman knew what he was doing, but a lot of people basically accused the Nuggets of trying to tank yesterday as they sat a lot of the starters to try and get ready, to try and get healthy for the playoffs, and wanting to avoid a playoff matchup with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't buy any professional team ever manipulates where they're going to be in a playoff seeding area. I think they're professionals. I think they know what they're doing. I think it's more about being healthy for the playoff run than anything, rested and healthy. But as we jump into the playoffs, when you're looking for what's going on with the Denver Nuggets, where do you usually go?
I go to milehighsports.com, and Ryan Blackburn, whether he's on YouTube or milehighsports.com, he's got the pulse of that team. I think he would provide the best answer of what the Nuggets were or weren't trying to do against the Spurs yesterday. But look, they got the win. Nikola Jokic got his minutes. He's eligible for the MVP race. I think if you're really that upset about what happens in the last game of the season, that's a league problem, not a your team problem. But that's neither here nor there. Look, the Nuggets kick it off next Saturday against Minnesota. That, as a fan, I mean, there's not much more exciting than that. I mean, you get to play the T-Wolves in round one. Like, hey, what's not to like? Let's go.
I always enjoy watching the clip from years ago with Jamal Murray where he tells the story about Joker playing against Rudy Gobert, and was Rudy with Minnesota or Utah at the time? When
I don't remember for sure, but
whoever they're playing against is trying to send help for Rudy against Joker, and Rudy says, no, I got him. And Jamal's telling this to our friend Vic Lombardi, and he goes, and Joker just looks at him and go, brother, I have 47. It's one of my favorite clips to see. So whenever I see Joker going against Rudy Gobert, that's always in my mind. NFL draft is 10 days away. Broncos don't have a first round pick, but I'm gonna ask you a very similar question. If you're gonna try and figure out what they're gonna do on days 2 and 3, who are you checking out for that information?
I go to my guy Cody Rourke at milehighsports.com, also on YouTube. Cody's much like Ryan has a pulse on the Nuggets. Cody has a pulse on what's going on with the Broncos. And I think this draft is interesting because the Broncos have had an interesting offseason. Whether fans have liked it or not from day one till now is, it's been kind of a roller coaster. But I think what they do in the draft, or maybe what they don't do in the draft, could be very telling in terms of what Sean Payton and George Payton think of their team right now, where the holes are. Who knows? They might do something that's pretty exciting. And if they do, I know for sure Cody will be all over it.
That's right. And then also don't forget to check out Colleen Flynn and the Mile High Hockey guys as the Avalanche President's Cup winners. Again, I think, it's going to be a fun stretch because the Avs look very, very poised to earn themselves a parade through downtown Denver. The hope is that the Nuggets can match them. The Rockies Hockey Mountain High podcast. Thank you for the correction in the side chat, Danny Bailey. What would we do without you? Getting through our technical glitches and everything. Appreciate that. I just got to write things down better, Dougie. That's really all I got to do. But also check out the events page on milehighsports.com because we'll have times and locations figured out for our playoff watch parties. Those will be going in full steam for both the Nuggets and the Avalanche. And
international soccer. Don't forget about that's a new one that we just added.
That's as of this morning, we were going to be having some watch parties for some World Cup action. of all things.
I love the World Cup as much as any sporting event out there.
Okay. I will say it won't get me as excited as Sunday at the Masters yesterday, which was just a blast. I had a lot of it on my phone as we were kind of mingling with the Mile High Sports alums and folk at your dad's celebration of life. But World Cup is great. Can't wait. I mean, we've got our rallying team. We'll have more on that over at Mile High Sports probably as we get closer to that event. And then the last thing I want to tease before we get going is you and I are working on something that when we eventually announce what the big deal is going to be, I think it's going to be a very, very popular product, very popular project that we're putting together. I know I've chatted with some high school sports stakeholders, might be the best way to put it, and they are very, very interested to see what we're doing and how we're doing it. And we've got some big things going. A lot of it's going to tie into some print, eventually some digital. But yeah, I'm pumped for what life is going to be here for the rest of April and May.
Let's just put it this way: when the school year is over, we are not over quite yet.
Oh no. And even though Spring State Championships is a full sprint for the entire month of May, my feet are in the blocks right now. We're going right now. So a lot of fun stuff coming up next week. Like I said, we'll be Wednesday, not Monday, and we'll be up at Welshire Golf Course, and we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna see how the kids are playing. Maybe bring the sticks, Doug. I'm because you threw me under the bus too. Because you threw me under the bus with James, I am going to throw you under the bus a little bit and let you know that Doherty Athletic Director John Shube is horribly disappointed in you that we're not playing golf at Kennedy, which is another great City of Denver course, after Legislative Council next week. So when he asked if we were playing, I told him, no, we're broadcasting the show. And if you want to blame someone, don't blame the Colorado Preps guy. You got to blame Doug.
Blame Doug, yeah. Well, there's not enough daylight hours to play all the courses in one day. There are other days, though.
That's true, but no other days after a Legislative Council meeting.
I can't be responsible for where people live and how far they will or won't drive to play golf with us.
That's very fair.
Tell him that. You tell him that.
I think Johnny should host us at Flying Horse North, but that's neither here nor there. So we'll be back next week on Wednesday. I'm hoping Danny Bailey should be on site with us, so maybe we can get him on camera again. I think he made his brief debut today. Danny Bailey, thanks for putting up with all of the craziness that this morning turned out to be. What would we do without you? But for Doug Ottewell, Terry Hensley, James Nokes, Danny Bailey, I'm Dan Moorman. This has been the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing.